welcome to Pale Reflection, the proud member of the Duff Network, where we reflect on Warbo's most charmed work as it releases. I'm Ruben Morehouse.
I'm Elliot Diebold.
And we are back to talk about Lost for Words 1.7, 1.8, and Inventories.
It's Inventories. I'm so sick of people doing that.
Inventories? What are our characters going to invent? Ooh, let's find out later.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to because I'm not 100% sure what all these diagrams do. But let's get there.
I was making a joke, but actually they do basically invent some interesting things that we'll have to try and decipher later on. But let's begin with 1.7, shall we? Which opens...
Yep.
Shall we? I mean, yeah.
I'll think on it.
Let's go backwards this time. So 1.7 opens with Avery in gym class, and she is using her sight to give herself an edge. She's cheating, basically.
Yeah, it's really great though to kind of see Avery a bit like in her element. Like, you know, she's not a basketball player. Pam mentions that in a bit. She's more of an ice hockey player. You know, it's like a bit of all around. Like, she's a runner. She's a sports person. She does good sports.
Sportser.
Yep. And it's fun to see her do her good sports. Like I think one of the things I really liked about this is, you know, she's kind of annoyed that there's so many basketball games going on because she wants to be able to use audio cues to also play. And like, you know, I'm shit at ball sports and stuff, so that sort of thing has never occurred to me. I can barely work on hand-to-eye coordination. I'm not adding other things into the mix.
You can barely deal with one sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it was just really cool to kind of see in her head while she's like in her element, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the fact that she's kind of, you know, relying on all her senses, so to speak, for this game makes it less intense, less kind of worrying to me that she is using her sight in this. Like, it's just another sense that she's using. It's not she's specifically using this to give her an edge. Because it's kind of like the exact kind of petty magic, which is totally a mistake, and we'll see exactly why soon.
Yeah, but it's totally the sort of thing I would have tried. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
Maybe not this specific example, because, you know, I'm probably more on Verona's level when it comes to this sort of thing. But like just the idea of like using the sight in all sorts of situations to try and just make things easier, because isn't that like what you would want magic to do?
Yeah, the bit where she's like inspecting connections to see who likes who in class is very much what I would have done when I was 13 years old if I learned magic.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, she's kind of even thinking about whether she could kind of reinforce ideas, use magic to influence the outcome of when she's about to make this shot. And it's like, I don't know. I kind of would say that this is probably a little bit worrying, but Avery learns that lesson soon enough, so I'm kind of I'll lay off her a bit. She'll learn the lesson.
I think the other really interesting thing about that moment is, like, she sort of comments on how it's an easy shot and it's pretty much a guarantee, but she has that moment of doubt. Like, there's just that like streak of insecurity to Avery. And also, like, as we already sort of touched on, like, she's using all her senses. She's taking this quite seriously for a sport she doesn't really play. Like, she's someone who sort of puts all the effort in, and I think that's maybe part of why there's this instinct from her for a little bit to just be like, oh, I should just, like, do everything I can, you know. Especially in that way, that's contrasted with Verona, who's just fucking standing up the back, wanting to sit down, like doing exactly what I used to do in PE, which is just not do it.
Yeah. Yeah, Verona is that classic child in school who is so passionate and dedicated to the thing that she cares about, but the modern school system just doesn't provide her the opportunity to do the thing that she cares about, which is magic in school. And that's a failure. The fact that they don't teach magic in American middle schools is really a
Canadian.
failure, and in Diamond.
I'm sure the Americans have it covered.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, that's true. They do it in America. This is Canada's just backwards, I guess, in there.
No, but like, yeah, Verona's doing like a Daria impression for this lesson, and
yeah.
Actually, never mind. We'll get to Verona plenty next chapter.
Yes, that's true. Go back to Verona's head in a moment.
I do like, though, like, I just want to call out that one line that Verona has where she comments on the fact that Avery's cheating, and when she's sort of called on it, she's like, oh, she practices at stuff. It's ridiculous, and I'm calling it cheating. And like that's such good double speak. Like I was just like, oh, that's so good because it's she's practicing, but also like I like it just worked on both levels, and I was just like, that's fucking like Verona is freakishly good at some of this stuff. I was like, that is so clever, and
Yeah,
yeah, worried
the
for her.
practice double meaning is really great.
It's clever, yeah.
I really love the all of the like double speak in this chapter. It's so much fun. Like it makes every mundane conversation so fun because it turns it into a puzzle of like, okay, how do I get through this conversation without lying, but also telling the truth, but also I can't tell the truth. Like there's always these levels to every single conversation or interaction they have with a normal human being. And it makes it always so much fun.
Yeah, like Avery with her eye, where she used to be like, my eye is weird.
Weird. Yeah, exactly. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and then it's like, can you explain it? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like a good thing. Like,
good cover.
Yeah, well, deer in the headlights moments are good actually because you can just be like, I don't know, and that can be true.
Yeah. Yeah, quite easily. And then we get this moment where not a moment, a whole scene between Pamela, who's this girl that Avery kind of has a crush on, and Avery, and it's so nice, and I just love Avery so much.
Oh, I mean, this bit was just like, it was real like teenage beanie crush hours. Like, it was a mix of heartwarming and also like just relatably cringy. Like just the awkwardness around the awkwardness she has around Pam, just took me back to being that age very effectively. I hated and loved it at the same time.
It was great. I loved it. Only love here for me.
The other thing that I think comes up in this conversation as well. So Avery starts actually inspecting all the connections, as you mentioned. And she particularly notes that like all the connections from the boys in the class, like thin out as they get to her to the point where they're like non-existent. And that just stood out to me because like the connections are thinning out on her end, which to me would symbolize like it's her end of the connection that's weak.
Yeah, definitely. It's her not kind of putting in the effort to make that connection more solid.
Yeah, and obviously like with Avery and the boys, there's that element where she's not romantically interested in them, but it just sort of got me thinking like there's all this stuff going on with Avery and about how she's lonely and all that. And I think there's an element to that of like she is not reaching out and like she's understandably scared too. Like I think she's still a bit scarred by the way her best friend, whose name I've forgotten, her old hockey friend, sort of like left her, and so she's been left. I don't think she's probably like just a bit paranoid, understandably, of being rejected and left. So she's not reaching out, and like that makes sense if you think about the whole thing she did with not wanting to speak to anyone. Like she talks about how she already kind of liked Pamela, and Pamela was talking like badly about herself. And Avery was like, oh, that's wrong. But she didn't say anything because she was doing that stupid challenge where she didn't want to talk. So it's kind of like I think one of the biggest hurdles Avery has to overcome is that I think she needs to try harder to form these connections. Like I think she's just kind of expecting or wanting to just suddenly be connected to someone, but not really wanting to actually put herself out there to try and form that connection.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. The idea that Avery, I don't know. I mean, I'm not blaming her for the circumstances she was in, but the fact that she doesn't seem to put in a huge amount of effort into her personal connections, possibly with the exception of the Kenneteers, but even that, like it seems like she's the third wheel.
Well,
even though Verona and Lucy make overtures to like push that image away, I guess.
I mean, that's the thing. They do seem to be the only one she's kind of really formed a strong bond with and put effort in. But there's like magical shenanigans going on there. Like, presumably the spirits are maybe trying to keep them together. But even outside of that, there's like, she kind of knows they're stuck together. So there's that security, like,
Yeah, true.
Like she's not.
That probably makes it easier for her. The fact that there's no like they're just gonna leave me.
Yeah,
they can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a sort of safety to that relationship that I think probably helped a lot. And yeah, like, and that's the thing. They're the only ones. Like, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but there's obviously this scene with Mia later, and Mia kind of gives her this standing invitation to, come hang out at parties. And Avery is very resistant to the idea of saying yes, and she does have that one reason where she doesn't want to sort of be like, the sort of token lesbian. And I don't know enough about Mia to sort of be willing to come down on whether that's like fair of Avery, but like either way, it's like she did kind of seem to be avoiding saying yes and signing up to actually trying to strengthen these connections.
Yeah, I wonder if it's intentional, if it is just kind of low self-esteem, meaning that she kind of, is caught in that cycle of, oh, they're just like being nice, or she has this interaction with Mia that you've referenced, where Mia, I mean, it's an okay interaction, it's fine, and then after she leaves the bathroom, she kind of has this thought of she's expecting to see Mia like standing next to some other girls giggling or laughing at her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so possibly she is doing this self-sabotage thing where it's like, oh, they don't actually want to be my friend. They're just being nice or just trying to dig for information about who's gay in class or whatever, right?
Yeah, or they just want me, to have like a lesbian around. So I think like,
Yeah, exactly. They just want to appear cool or whatever it is.
yeah. So like, yeah, that's the thing. I that would sort of be my guess at the moment. Is like, I think the image I'm forming of Avery is as someone who is, yeah, too scared to put in the effort on her end on the connections right now. And I get why it's happening, but it's like, it just sucks to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyway, so enough about this poor game. So Avery's sitting on the bench, and she's kind of got thorough use out of her sight, and so she turns it off. Kind of.
She remains remarkably calm, I think, in this situation compared to what I probably would have
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Pretty wild. So it's a great escalation. It's a great way of hammering home even more so the rules of this. Like, you just don't understand the rules of this world yet. You need to know the rules of this world before you know, overuse magic. Like, you're diving in too deep, even to like very minor things.
Yeah, it's kind of like every time we find out about something in this world, we then quickly find out the pitfalls and the problems with like overindulging with it. Like, this isn't just sort of an easy ticket to getting everything you want. Like, whatever we find out about XYZ, there's always some catch to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it seems like that trend is going to continue, which we'll talk about the gifts in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm interested to put a pin in until. Then we get to this scene that we've mentioned with Mia, which is good. I mean, Mia comes in maybe a bit hot, but it's a pretty good sentiment overall. So good job, Mia. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm not going to come down too hard on like another 13-year-old for not necessarily having the best tact to open a conversation like this, but yeah, I agree. Overall, seemed like a pretty cool move by Mia. No wonder she won class ranker. She seems pretty neat.
She seems nice. Yeah, she seemed nice. It was good. It was a good sentiment.
Yeah.
Avery could have friends, but she chooses not to.
I think the other thing we should talk about as we wrap up this PE period is like there's obviously Mr. Bader. I don't know how to pronounce that. But he like, he has some moments with Lucy that, I mean, something we didn't talk about too much that like I saw like a lot of people sort of talking about after 1.6 was like the potentially racial angle to a lot of the like problems Lucy and her mum are hitting. And I didn't really want to talk about it much because it's like, I'm a white guy down in Australia. It's not exactly something I can have much say on or, talk about well. But it's coming up again in this chapter. I think it'd be weird to not talk about it at all. So, like, there's definitely something like that going on. Like, there's this.
Yeah, there is, isn't it? Like the fact that Lucy was last in class ranker, which isn't necessarily a problem, but she is the only black kid in her class, right? And the hair stuff, which is obviously a bit dodgy in this chapter.
I don't know
by
much
Mr. Bader.
about the hair stuff, but like what do I do know? What we saw in like Lucy stuff, like it kind of seems like at best, this Mr. Bader is like ignorant. But it's just like in Lucy's chapter, she brought up like a teacher who like always seem to pick on her, and you could kind of see that from Mr. Beta here as well. So
Yeah.
like yeah, like I know there seems to be something there, and we'll keep an eye on it. But like yeah, I don't know. It's hardly something I have too much experience with.
Yeah, I just as a quick thought though, this actually, unlike almost everything else in this story, this doesn't feel like something that's going to resolve into, oh, and it's some magical practitioner thing. It just
Yeah.
feels like it's just like a shitty part of Lucy and her mum's life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are more things like that, but you know, I mean, you have been building magical conspiracies on top of all
No,
those, so that's fine.
apart from this one thing, everything is because everything apart from this one thing is because Verona's dad is a practitioner, and you're just gonna have to accept it.
Okay.
So yeah, so guided by Lucy, the girls head off, and Lucy kind of leads them to the senior that she notices who has participated in the Hungry Choir's ritual, and she is missing a number of body parts as a result. So that's fun.
Yeah, I think what's also great is like Verona's been doing a bit of talking to people, and she's figured out that with this flyer, only some people can read it and other people can't. And like, it's the people at risk who can read it, right? Like, I don't know exactly what the criteria are for someone who's at risk, but that's my assumption is that it's the people at risk. Which is like, congratulations to everyone who couldn't read the flyer. We had that one user, like John, last week who predicted it all. So John should be worried, but I think
they're fucked.
the rest of us are fine because we couldn't make out shit.
Thank God. Yeah, the more you can make out the flyer, I think the worse of a position you're in.
Yeah.
It was like a twist, a little twist.
So sorry, John.
Sorry.
Best of luck in the ritual, I guess.
Yeah. So this woman, this senior, this girl is missing an eye, some fingers, like a toe or something that's making her limp, presumably.
Yeah.
They've been eaten, right?
Yeah.
Like someone's eaten those bits of her body and snapped her fingers like a carrot. Yeah. Why would you do this? What possible reason is there to participate in this ritual? Like, when we learned about the ritual incarnates or whatever, we learned that they have a cost or a risk, but have some kind of prize or reward at the end of them. And
what could
we
the
haven't found out what that
possibly
is.
Be?
Yeah, exactly, right? We haven't found out what it is, but it has to be something that makes people want to risk like very bad injuries. And actually, the fact that we haven't found out what it is yet kind of makes me nervous that it's going to be some reward that really appeals to one of our trio, and it's going to make it hard for them to not get involved.
Yeah, my guess is I'm still tying it to this singing show idea, and the only thing I can think of that kind of links like hunger and greed with singing is like celebrity famous. Like, I'm guessing that if you make it through all 8 days in the ritual, you're promised to become like some sort of celebrity or something. And then that's essentially the premise of these singing shows. My current guess, like my current prediction is, we're going to rock up at this ritual in the next chapter or two, and one of Avery's siblings, probably Sheridan, also known as Stephanie, will be there and will be partaking, and will completely shoot down any idea, because the Kenneteers still somehow believe that they're just going to watch and not participate, which is ludicrous.
It's insane.
But Sheridan / Stephanie being there, I think would just completely like throw that on its head.
I think the other one to me that makes sense, even though this does counteract my very correct theory.
You're not going to say Verona's dad.
Yeah. I mean, he's like clearly in a bad place, and he mentions in the next chapter that he has somewhere to go that night.
Does he? I forgot that. Doesn't he say he has his... Oh, but that is the day before. Yeah. I mean, maybe his part-time job is working for the Hungry Choir.
Yeah, maybe. If that turns out to be the truth, I'm going to count that as a win for my prediction.
Yeah, you can have it because I don't want it.
But yeah, I'm pretty with you that there's, I mean, just like the concept of how stories work means that it can't just be they're going to go and just observe and not do anything else. Like, that would be insane to me.
This ritual's so fascinating. I'm going to have to assume that you can't quit once you start, Like it's going to have one of the rules is going to have to
definitely.
be once you're in,
Once you're
you're
in. Yeah.
Because otherwise, like you'd fucking quit, right? Like you probably do the
You
one
better.
night, you
Oh,
lose some
100%.
fingers, and you're like, well, I'm fucking out.
Yeah, because we see this senior who clearly got tempted into it and knows that she's just gonna die. Like she has accepted her death.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn more about what the actual challenge is because, like, I think one of the big concepts is like these rituals. They get power from people coming in, and they kind of lose it from people winning.
Yeah.
So like it has to be really hard to win, and I can't wait to
Yeah.
see like what it is and how like presumably the way to beat it, the Hungry Choir, because something that's been hit multiple times throughout these chapters is you can't just like beat the Hungry Choir by overpowering it.
Mm.
So I think the way they're gonna have to beat it is like help everyone doing the ritual to actually win. And
Yeah,
I can't wait to
interesting.
find
Yeah.
out like more of the
Rig it.
rules so we can start to predict like what the loophole is that the Kenneteers can help everyone take advantage of to win, and how they can
Yeah.
do
Oh,
that in a way that isn't hurting the choir. In a way they can be held accountable
yeah,
for.
exactly. What we know so far is it relates to singing, it relates to eating. It's you have to
Presumably
do it like
cannibalism,
8 times or something. Cannibalism as well.
perhaps auto
Um,
cannibalism.
possibly, possibly. Yeah. If you don't sing well enough, you have to bite off one of your fingers.
Yeah, yeah, and then you're right. There's the 8 nights that you have to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's probably pretty tough to win, I would think. Anyway, so next up, the girls call out to Miss to kind of interview her. And she gives very cagey answers, but then makes up for it with some nice, definitely not trap gifts.
Yeah, completely on the level. I mean, I love the explanation for what happened to Avery here. So we do kind of quickly get Mrs. guess as to what happened, which is this is the magic of this world works on like establishing patterns and routines, and that's not just an external thing for the spirits. You like, the way Miss describes it, like a soul or like a person is a kind of complex spirit in a way. And so that's manipulable too. So like if you establish a
Yeah.
pattern for yourself, it becomes ingrained in the same way that external patterns do, which like, makes so much sense, but it's the kind of thing you wouldn't think about until your sight stays on.
Yeah.
It's so fun because it's like, I think just from like a sort of metatextual charactery perspective, like this idea that you're changing yourself as much as you're changing the outside world when you do things.
Yeah.
It's like it's enhancing that storytelling thing. Like the things you do impact you as well.
Yeah.
In a again in an otherverse physical way, which is very fun.
Yeah, like characters are defined by their actions, right? Your character is
Yes.
defined by your action, literally.
Yeah, like presumably if you're like, I don't know, going around and killing people, like that's doing something to your self, your soul in this world. And that's like just another great sort of story device.
Yeah. Avery describes her sight again here, and it's wild. We'll get to it. I guess we'll get to it next chapter.
Yeah. She's got a whole chapter
wild.
of using
Of
it basically, so we can talk about it. But yeah, I mean, the one thing we do get here is Miss again kind of confirms. Like, she just never says like yes or no in a way that I like. But she does kind of confirm that all these daggers, handprints, and meat bunnies under film, are like sort of just signs of like the latent energy of violence or whatever that's just hanging over the area without the Carmine Beast to keep it in order.
Yeah.
So like, I just, it's good to know that we're thinking in the right direction, but like, it still feels like there's going to be something like, can you use them? If there's all this extra energy floating around, can you use it?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember back at the very start of this story, the group of others talked about how the fact that this energy was still in Kennet, and that's the prime reason that they think it's one of the others who's done it. So presumably you can't use that energy because presumably that energy is like, I don't know, being co-opted by whoever killed the Carmine Beast.
Or is like unclaimed but could be claimed by them.
Yeah. Maybe it's unclaimed, but it's like claiming it would be dangerous because it implies that you killed the Carmine Beast and brings some other problems on your head or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things Miss talks about, like to just sort of jump into talking more about the Miss conversation. she sort of says she's not going to tell them who is responsible.
Even though she has a pretty good suspicion.
Yeah, she's got a strong suspicion, but she won't actually say it. And like her reasoning is, if she tells them, then whoever did it will sort of know and panic and like do the whole thing where they sort of take the Carmine Beast's energy and claim the spot, and they'll probably do it in a real dirty, messy way.
Yeah.
But if she doesn't tell them, then she says what's going to happen is the other three will nominate John, and then whoever did it will gather all the power, kill John, and take the position anyway. So why is she not telling them? Like, either way,
because she hates John is the answer. She wants John dead. It's the only explanation.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. The end result is still that the person completes their bloody coup and ends up in the position. The only difference is that John dies if she waits, and also she says multiple times throughout this, the longer there is no Carmine Beast, like the worse and the less stable things are in the region. So like for me, this is like the first time I've actually started to believe that there's something up with Miss, that she's genuinely sus, because I was like, this answer is bullshit. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, your reason for not telling them actually makes you seem like more guilty, because it seems like you're playing into the hands of whoever on purpose.
Yeah. Miss gives a few interesting answers here, right? She confirms that they're being watched, which we kind of put together based on what's already been going on. But she won't say why. She does confirm it's not just for their protection, though, so that's good, Miss.
She does say it is partially for their protection, though, so that's not totally terrible, Miss.
Yeah, but it's also not just for that. Like, partially for their protection means it's 1% their protection and 99% so that they don't find out Verona's dad is a practitioner.
Yeah, that's fair. My assumption is that the main reason is that she wants to make sure they're not actually getting too powerful or too good.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's been a consistent through line with all the others, is they're all kind of terrified of what the Kenneteers could turn into.
Yeah, definitely. They don't want them to get too powerful.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads to this situation where they keep like running into these problems, like Avery fucking up her sight, or all these things where they'll get taught the lesson afterwards, but only after they've already run headfirst into the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Miss brings up that there's this book called Essentials, and she's like, basically all the good practitioner families give it to, new practitioners before they awaken, so they can kind of understand the world before they come into it. But she doesn't say we can't. She's like, we are not in a position to give you that, which again just feels like a we don't wanna answer to me, but in a way that's phrased so it doesn't sound like we don't wanna.
Yep. Yeah, and also we get to this point where they ask what Miss is, and she declines to answer that because she doesn't trust the Kenneteers. Lucy and Verona both guess incorrectly, and Avery saves her guess, which invariably means it's going to pay off and she'll guess it correctly, and this will name Miss and save the entire town from exploding or whatever. But I do think Miss is probably a hide behind based on our Monster Corner from a few weeks ago.
I actually I don't anymore. Like ever since we sort of even before we started to do that Monster Corner, I've been doubting it more and more. Like I think I'm still sort of zoning in on this idea of Pale dealing a lot with like justice and consequences. And if a lot of the others in town are sort of meant to represent, the various consequences of humanity's actions, or like we talked about the Hungry Choir and John being, like, is she some sort of embodiment of like hiding secrets? I mean, maybe this isn't a totally different idea to the hide behinds, but I don't know. I could see her being someone who is, like this embodiment of not telling the whole truth or keeping a secret or deception or something. And especially because she's kind of the police chief for our three detectives here. I think that's just so hilarious, as like to have your police chief be someone who's literally the embodiment of not telling them everything they need to know.
You're right. That is a pretty funny idea. I like the theory, and it works quite nicely with the murder mystery aspect. If she's literally like an enigma.
It doesn't feel like the whole thing though. Like it's going to be that thing where, there's that extra wild bow twist on it if it is right. That'll be like, oh, that's even cooler.
Yeah. here's a possibility. This was posted in the Doof Media Discord by a user called Sylphrina, and I'm just going to read out their message. I'm pretty suspicious Miss Hardy is involved in the practice to some extent. She's been brought up by Avery on multiple occasions, but we haven't actually seen her yet. Or have we? Consider we have an other named Miss whose face we've never seen, whose name also starts with Miss. Miss Hardy, who is mysteriously absent since the start of the story. So I'm convinced Miss Hardy is Miss.
I mean, we haven't seen them in the same room. It's true.
I know, right? Also, we've never seen Charles and Verona's dad in the same.
Jesus.
What does that tell you?
It doesn't seem like the sort of thing Verona would notice. Actually, she might not, considering their relationship.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a thing over in Canada, but like, at my school here in Australia, we had to call the male teachers sir and the female teachers miss. So, having them actually just straight up call her miss, like they probably have to at school, would just be hilarious.
That's not actually what she goes by in the other circles, but they just called her Miss one time, and she rolled with it.
This might be a bit too Galaxy Brain for me to get on board with.
But that's what we do here. That's my role here in this show, I believe, is going for the big plays.
You're going for the high risk, high reward strategy, and I respect it. I think the other theory I saw people mentioning is that she's one of the lost, which is something that's brought up in Avery's gift. Especially because, Avery's the one with the guess left. And if she's the one who's going to be doing this stuff, that helps people get lost, with a capital L, who knows? I mean, and, miss could be short for missing.
Oh, shit. That's good.
I think the bit that jumped out to me is when, I think it's Lucy, guesses complex spirit as what she is. She sort of says no, and she's kind of like, she sort of laments the fact that unlike a spirit, she can't grow or shrink, like she is who she is, and she also doesn't have like a home, which probably leads into that lost theory, like she's just stuck and unhinged would be my interpretation of what lost could be.
Yeah.
Like she's lost her grounding, so she doesn't have a home, and she also can't grow or shrink because she's just not attached anymore. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm going to stick to my embodiment of deception theory for now, but the lost theory actually...
the lost theory is convincing me pretty good. The fact that miss is short for missing is just so... it's the exact kind of simple little wordplay that Wildbow loves.
Yeah, it'd be good if that's it.
So Miss also leaves them with some gifts. And let's talk about these gifts. They are pretty bad. I mean, like, okay.
I mean, the term double-edged sword springs to mind.
Right, yeah. And here's the thing for me, is we've kind of touched on each of the flaws that these characters have a few times over the course of this story, and they immediately realize these gifts are explicitly playing into their flaws, quite obvious.
Yes.
And then the next chapter is them just using them a whole bunch anyway, like experimenting with them, all kinds of shit. And it's like, I'm immediately, when I saw that in the next chapter, I was like,
God damn it.
What are you doing? Like, you literally just had an experience of realizing you were too... Like, literally every day since they've awakened, they've had like 2 experiences of, oh, we're so in over our head. I thought I knew how in over our head we were yesterday, but today I realize it's even more. And yet they just keep doing it. Like,
yeah. Well, let's talk about the gifts specifically as well, because they're quite fun. So Verona gets like details on a nearby sort of Hogwarts, which just quick aside, please, Wildbow, please let us go there.
Oh, I mean, it is just, hey, you know that escapist fantasy that every 13-year-old child has? Here's that for you.
Yeah.
You're not like about to, run away from your life or anything, are you, Verona? Because this would probably be a bad gift to give to somebody who's about to do that.
Unhappy home life? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Again, like she also brings up the potential downside of like it's school. Like she's gonna go there and it's not gonna be Hogwarts.
I know.
It's gonna be a fucking drill sergeant school.
Yeah.
And she's gonna be fucking miserable. She also gets the feather, which maybe we should touch on more, like when she starts playing with it. Next chapter. It's an interesting one. I don't feel like I quite get it yet, like what it's going to be for.
We're jumping ahead here, but I kind of want to say it's about I feel like the thing that it's doing, and what we see Verona explicitly use it for in her chapter, is messing with identities of things. And so then that kind of ties into what we'll get to, which is another potential problem that a problematic path Verona is about to start walking down.
That's very true.
Of messing with her own identity. So maybe it's something to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I can think of it being useful for now is like cheating, like homework and report cards and shit, which is very Verona.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I'm sure she'll come up with some stupider and more dangerous way to use it. So Avery gets instructions on how to do this fucking insane ritual that I can't wait to see.
It seems like it has like not a strong benefit at the end of it.
Well, we don't hear anything explicit about what the gains are. We hear a lot about what the risks are, but there's like one line that's like the rewards are great.
Like, oh, it'll be worth it. Yeah, and I'm like, we don't trust you, miss. I don't trust that is true.
Yeah, but like the brief like snippets of description that we get of this ritual sound pretty fucking fun. So I can't wait to see what it's about because it sounds weird.
Yeah.
And then Lucy gets like her little Miss Militia ring.
Yes, this is the coolest gift by far. I mean, again, a problem, but I loved it. It was so cool.
Yeah, we do get to see a bit of it next chapter, and it's fun.
It turns soda cans into guns. It's awesome.
My favorite is the wooden box that turns into brass knuckles.
Oh yeah, that's good too. Dictionary sword, that's a good one. Anyway, so that's the end of 1.7. The trio realize that these gifts are problematic, and then 1.8 obviously has to open with them immediately using them flagrantly. But before then, I guess we start with Verona mowing the lawn, sight on.
Yeah, before we get into the whole sight on part, this mowing of the lawn, like I know Verona's a bit of a like, you know, she's not Captain Motivation, but this actually does sound like the worst. Like there's mowing the lawn and then there's mowing the lawn.
Yeah. I would have given up on this long ago. I do not have the restraint that Verona does to not just fuck this thing up, you know?
Yeah, like the bits where she's like fantasizing about just like lighting the whole garden up in like a plume of smoke. I was like, yeah, like, you know, this mower is heavy, it's broken, it's corded, which I've never seen a corded mower before, but like, why would you do that? But yeah,
you can chop up your own cord, obviously.
Like it's convenient. Just like normally I'm a bit like, oh, Verona, you know, you're so lazy, blah, blah, blah. For this one, I was like, no, Verona's being completely fair. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Even like factoring in that we're seeing it from her perspective, I was still like, this is dumb.
Yeah. So when I first read this chapter, the first note that I wrote down was, right off the bat, Verona is using her sight to do the mowing. Did she learn nothing from Avery's ordeal last chapter? And then, of course, yeah, exactly. That's the problem. She did learn something from Avery's ordeal last chapter. Oh, God. I love that I walked into it being like, Verona, how could you be so stupid? And then she's not. I mean, she is being stupid, but not in the way that I thought. In a very much different and worse way.
Yep.
Yeah, Verona thinks about making a giant like fire rune in the grass, which would be hilarious, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, we haven't seen like big diagrams. Like I assume the big diagrams are more powerful. Like I'm now picturing like crop circles being some practitioner farmers like, you know, big attempt to fucking like call rain in or something. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, the thing I liked about this was that we've kind of from Lucy and Avery's head, we've seen when Verona has crazy ideas that she puts into practice. But these are the crazy ideas that are so crazy that she doesn't even put them into practice. And I love seeing some of them. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, she's just kind of always in that mode of just like thinking about the mechanics of this world and how she can exploit them.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that we realize pretty quickly here is Verona's headspace is not great following like the class ranker debacle. We know this already is the case for Avery and Lucy, but we see that it's also pretty messed up for Verona.
Yeah, and sort of as we talked about like right after it happened, hers is a bit like less direct than theirs in how it's gotten to her, but Like, it's interesting how this chapter kind of changed my perception of Verona a fair bit. I kind of had this impression that like the folly she'd gotten into was not taking it seriously. But it's like that's not it. She did take it seriously. Like, you know, there's all this stuff that happens with Wallace here in this section, but like she's just. I mean, we'll get to it more, but like her parental situation has kind of just like scarred her emotionally and made her attribute like being close to someone or romantically involved with someone as just like being in drag. And she's been so trapped in this situation with her dad that she's, you know, she's valuing all these concepts of freedom to like, you know, as a very extreme extent.
Yeah. She has this beat a few times of thinking about like, what is the point of dating? All that would do is get you to a situation where you have to live with somebody, like, which is the worst.
Yeah, and like, you know, at first, like, and I definitely saw other people do this, having like a brief read of like, oh, is she like, you know, aromantic or something?
Yeah, that was my first thought too, but I don't think I think you're right that it's more just she doesn't have good role models for adult relationships, and so she kind of sees relationships as what happened to her parents, right? Which is a really messy, terrible situation.
And not just that, but like her relationship with her dad.
Yes, her and her dad as well, of course. Yeah,
is like a relationship that has like left her feeling trapped. So she just associates living with someone and being like involved with someone as like a relationship that traps you. And she even sort of says this. She goes like over to Lucy's place and she's like, "Thank God we don't live together." And it's because like this her headspace is now one where it's like, you know, she associates being family or living with someone as being trapped with them.
You know what it reminds
me? And it's, you know, but she has those other moments where she's like, you know, she does have a great relationship with like Lucy and her mom.
Yeah.
She's a little disappointed when Wallace actually doesn't come over, which is like when I sort of dropped the like potential aromantic theory. Like, I think it's just she's just been, you know, her just destroyed by, you know, this situation with her parents.
What it is, Elliot, is, you know, that meme where people posted this towards the start of lockdown, posted like, oh, now I have to spend more time with my husband or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like she's seen those memes and it's like, yeah, that is what relationships are like, without realizing that that's a marker for a really bad relationship.
Yeah. Like, and then again, like, you know, you turn to the relationships in her life and it's like, well, you got to stay at home with your dad.
Yeah, I, of course, I'm not knocking, like, it's totally understandable where this has come from, but, let's move on to, I want to talk about the fact that, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I want to talk about the fact that the first part of this chapter is her fighting against technology, and it's, I don't know if there's enough here to put my finger on yet, but just something to keep an eye on. We haven't seen a lot of how technology interacts with the practice in this universe, right? It kind of reminds me of Dresden Files, where magic in the Dresden Files is like against technology, and I don't know if that's to the same extent what it is in Pact, but the fact that Verona is so intuitively good at practicing and seems to struggle with this giant piece of technology, it just makes me think maybe we're starting to bring up some themes of how technology interacts with the practice, and that we kind of hit that with the Hungry Choir and the website and some of these other things where I'm just kind of, I don't know, it's just something interesting to keep an eye on as this theme starts to emerge.
Yeah, because something that was mentioned was things like the living rituals, like the Hungry Choir, are like sort of growing thanks to things like the internet. And if you sort of think about it, it would have been a lot harder for something like the Hungry Choir to operate over a huge chunk of Ontario.
Yeah, definitely.
Before the internet. I guess the thing that I sort of come to when I was thinking about technology, like if this is a world where everything is formed through like patterns and repetition, I could see technology being kind of antithetical to that in some ways, because technology like evolves and is discarded so quickly. Like if you think about it, like, you know, just as you're starting to develop patterns around, you know, like Windows 98, suddenly everyone's using iPhones. You know what I mean? So there's like, you know, it's all just sort of technology's moving too quickly for the magic of Pale to really kind of work into it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I like that. I like that. We'll have to keep an eye on it because, again, I don't know if that fully tracks with the idea that like ritual incarnates are on the rise because of the birth of the fucking internet, like creepy pastas or whatever. But it's something that's interesting, and I'm interested to see more of where it goes.
Yeah, well, I guess the other angle to that is technology, does kind of change the way we interact, right? So like the rituals sprout up more because of things like forums and creepypasta and I don't know, maybe that's how it fits in, like the way technology has changed how we interact with people, or with each other. Maybe that's sort of the angle to it. You get things like class ranker, like that just wouldn't really happen without smartphones.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a bit of both then. It's a bit of it's both like a place that disrupts but also kind of doesn't have the same amount of weight behind it because it is so, I guess, mobile.
Yeah, what we're seeing is new patterns being etched out into the rules of this universe.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. So Verona finishes the lawn mowing. Good stuff, Verona. And she obviously goes straight to working on her favorite pastime, which is practitioner experimentation.
Not that great a job because, the first thing her dad's able to do is criticize it. So
I know.
Clearly that's on her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. We're totally on her dad's side in that whole thing.
No, not at all. I do love this, though, that there's this sense of it's just like the second it's kind of done, it's like, chores done. That's it. I'm off to the fun stuff. And she runs inside and grabs her pen.
Well, okay, let me read this out. Okay, so here's the line. She puts away the thing, and then it goes, then marched into the house. Then the next line, she exited the house, feather in hand. There's literally no beats inside the house. And this kind of jumped out to me on my first read as like, it just felt a little off.
It's a very abrupt, she's in and she's out. Like, it could have just been she went into the house and got her feather.
Yeah, and on my first read, I kind of put a pin in this, and then coming back to it, it feels like it's showing us and based on what happens later, it feels like it's showing us the house, like, not having any sense of interest for her. Like, there's no interest. Literally nothing of interest happens to her inside that house. And so, of course, it's just kind of edited out of her internal narration. And it kind of, even in the context of how this chapter goes on, it's this is maybe the first beat of Verona kind of losing touch with the human aspects of her life.
Yeah, I really like that. Like, the second I sort of saw that in your notes, I was like, yes, because you're right. Like, her house and her dad represent, like, her shitty human life. That's pretty much a beat we hit pretty consistently in this chapter. Is it's like, the further away she is from the house, the happier she is. And it's like, every time she comes back to the house, shit gets real, and she's, understandably, like, sort of miserable again. So viewing the house and her dad as this sort of metaphor for the human part of her life, and the fact that she's just starting to kind of ignore it, I think is probably spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, okay. I wish we could just skip all the parts with her dad, but we can't. We got to talk about them. They're in the notes. We got to talk about them. I know. We get another interaction between Verona and her dad, and like, it's fine. It's better than the later ones, at least. Like, they're clearly unhappy. I'm not going to blame Verona for that because she's a child and her dad is an adult and he's clearly not doing great. But yeah, the things we said before about Verona not being great with people obviously applies here as well. And it just is like a clearly unhappy and toxic situation for them. And that's that.
Yeah, like, she's not equipped to give him the support he needs. Again, you can kind of blame him and her mum for that as well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't equip her with them. But it's like, he just needs help, and she's not able to give it because he hasn't given her the help she needed growing up. There's like, I think it's interesting how this conversation sets up the next one. Because something I sort of noticed even in this one on my first read through is there's no, like, they start to have this conversation, and you can already tell, like, it's just forced and put on. Like Verona's dad will ask her a question about her life, and she sort of answers, and he just uses it as a launching point to talk about, like, his own problems, and he doesn't address them. And then she will just sort of turn it straight back to her with, like, yeah, well, I am saying blah blah blah, and he's like, yep, I'm just saying that in my experience, like, so there's like, neither of them seem interested in what the other is saying, or like caring about what the other one is going through, basically. The one line we start to get a shred of empathy is this line where Verona worries she's going to say something sarcastic, so she mentally for a second considers what it would be like to work her dad's job, and then just uses it so she can get away with saying this sarcastic comment of, gee, I wonder what it's like to go into work every day.
Yeah, this was so sad when she almost empathized with him, and then it just didn't.
Yeah, it was all just so she could snark at him. Yeah, like you can almost see the bit where she runs, like she sort of just changes the topic to dinner. Like as soon as her dad starts, she just sort of, and she straight up says like, I'm changing the topic. What about dinner? And then as soon as he starts to get that, she's just like, I'm going to Lucy's. So I think she and she talks later about how common this whole thing with her dad breaking down is, which like get him help, Verona. Like I know she's 13, but like an idiot could see he needs help. But like it's just kind of, I think she like knows that that's where it's going, so she just leaves, and she has that little moment of doubt where she's like, oh, should I not? And then he sort of goes into his room, and so she's just like, oh, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, she decides not to put in the effort here.
Yeah.
Again, can't blame her, but just a bad situation, right?
Yeah. I don't even blame her dad that much. Like,
yeah,
if you ask me to pick one, like it's him, but like he's just so destroyed. The situation with Verona's mum that we get a bit more details on later, like it's just such a mess. Like they both need help, and neither of them can give it to each other, and it's just like, yeah, I just feel bad for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's move on to happier things.
Yes. Lucy's house.
Yay! Verona heads over to Lucy's house for dinner and has a nice interaction with an adult. So that's good.
It's such a contrast. Like the second the conversation starts with Jasmine, Lucy's mom, you're just like, holy shit! Like, is this the same Verona? She's actually a bit like, she's not quite vulnerable for herself, but she kind of is, because it's like she knows Lucy will go apeshit if Jasmine doesn't respond to this. So there's like that trust in Jasmine she has that she just didn't have in her dad at all.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, like because she told him the same information. She mentioned the app to her dad, and her dad, it was one of the things where her dad just ignored what she said and talked about his own thing, and she was just like, fuck, it doesn't even matter if I tell him about like something really bad. Whereas like Jasmine, it's like she knows Jasmine's going to listen and understand it, but she still has that sort of trust in her.
Yeah. This is such a nice interaction, right? Because we've kind of ragged on Verona a fair amount for not being, I don't know, good at social interaction. But this scene with Jazz really shows how much she cares about Lucy. Like, we knew that, or like we had been told that, we kind of saw it a bit, but this is so nice. It's the only instance we've really seen of Verona being vulnerable with another human being. And it's because she cares about Lucy. And it's just so nice to see this side of Verona that we don't get to see much.
Yeah, and I think it lends credence to this idea that she, would be, more connected to people if her family situation wasn't such dog shit.
Yeah.
Like the relationship she has with Lucy and Jasmine is, yeah, you're right, like so close. And we saw that like in 1.5 when John had the thing, like there was that whole thing, like Verona wasn't scared for herself. She was just upset because Lucy was upset. Like,
yeah,
it's sort of the one good relationship she has.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Avery, I suppose.
Well, yeah, but even that, it doesn't feel as, I mean, I think they have a good relationship, but it doesn't feel, I don't think we felt a lot of vulnerability or connection from Verona's side.
No, yeah, like her relationship with Lucy is still like kind of a cornerstone for her.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way that like it'd be very difficult for Avery to catch up to.
Yes, of course. So yeah, last chapter everyone realized these gifts are probably a trap, and then this chapter they're just kind of using them a bunch. They didn't they got home from school and immediately started playing with their new toys. Concerning.
Yeah, and I mean, if there was doubt that you're meant to be worried about these things, I think that's definitely made clear with the fact that Lucy's makes a gun. Like we just had a whole chapter about where she's at when it comes to like guns and violence and
Well,
all that stuff.
yeah, she
And
was
then
just held at gunpoint, and then
Miss is like, hey, have a thing that makes guns.
yeah, that turns innocuous items into weapons, that
Yeah.
amplifies the cycle of violence. Good luck, Lucy.
Yeah, off you go. Have
Yeah.
fun.
But having said all that, it is very cool.
Yes.
I'd want one.
I mean, yeah, like it's so sick. I spent a while trying to like figure out if there was a pattern for what thing became what object. Like, because the dictionary becomes a knife, the wooden box becomes brass knuckles, the gushing granny soda becomes a gun.
Mm-hmm. It shoots out gushing granny bullets.
Exactly. So, like, what? Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, wanting to be able to predict what certain objects would get turned into by the ring.
Yeah, I feel like there's maybe a bit of elemental stuff to it, like the soda can metal. Metal is kind of newer thing, like a gun. I don't know.
But then
Wood is more heavy melee weapon. Brass knuckles. I don't know. It doesn't quite.
Yeah.
I
was just thinking about how would you use it if you had to use that object as a weapon? So dictionary, paper cut machine.
Is that wouldn't you bludgeon someone with a dictionary? I mean,
no, you kill them.
You just throw papers at them until they die from paper cut.
I mean, look, in my live read, I made a like pen is mightier than the sword type joke.
Yeah, that works.
Like if it's a very symbolic world, and then obviously like a wooden box, that's the bludgeoning thing, so that's where the brass knuckles come in. And then look, the can, you'd lob it at someone or shoot them. You'd shake it up and shoot them with the fizz. I
drop a Mentos in there and point it at them and hope that it took care of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's fun either way. Like there's that moment where like Lucy does it, and then Verona's like, more, and I was like, me too. Like, let's just let's burn through this thing. I don't give a fuck. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they have a really fun afternoon or evening, right? And that's the problem with it to me is they have this great interaction. They have this really fun thing, but what they're doing while they're having fun is idly toying with magic, like it's the exact thing that we just saw that they shouldn't do.
At least they've got that thing from John as a bit of a power source that they can tap. Like,
the hot lead.
Yeah, Lucy's one was like the downside to hers is like if she uses it without something like that, it'll drain a lot from her.
Yeah.
So at least they're taking that barest minimum step of making sure they've got it nearby.
Yay!
Not according to the inventory anymore though. But anyway.
No, it's in there.
Yeah, but I don't think Lucy has it.
True. Yeah, I've forgotten who has it.
Maybe. I think Verona has it.
Okay.
Like she takes it to keep experimenting with stuff that night, which is like fine, but like
give it back.
Lucy should have it on hand. She's the one with the ring. It's the easiest. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, then Verona goes home. Oh wait, sorry. We should touch on this bit with Avery, right?
Yes.
Because it's so like good. The most normal 13-year-old interaction we've had in this entire story, and it makes me so happy. Yeah, and I just want them to be normal 13-year-olds.
Yeah, it's just really selling how happy this experience with Lucy is. Like they just have, you're right, it's just this normal moment where they embarrass Avery and sort of oversell it to her parents to get her to be able to come. And then the three of them, like they have this fun experimenting with their toys until the mum comes home, and then it's just like, and then they all sit under a blanket and watch a movie which Avery wants to watch, and it's just like it was just like, oh, this is just do this, quit the practitioner stuff and do this. This is so much better. And of course it just sets you up to, for Verona to go back home. Like, we have this massive high of like, oh, this is just a great evening. And then it's like, now Verona has to go home.
Yes, which she does. And her dad is tired.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think we have much to say here that isn't covered in the other conversations except like, oh, her dad.
Here's the thing that I want to talk about here. The fact that it feels like time is skipping. You know that episode of Futurama? It's called Time Keeps on Slipping.
Yeah,
and throughout the episode, time jumps forward again and again by more and more each time.
Yeah.
It feels like that's what's happening here, where the first instance of it was Verona walking inside the house after finishing mowing and then immediately walking out. And now it's like every time she's doing normal human things, we get that moment of like time has just skipped slightly more forward, and we've just skipped it. Like we've skipped that part of her life, and it's just the human parts of her life are not capturing her interest, and they're just kind of being edited out of her narration because of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you're right. Like the thing that is like that makes me think you're onto something with that idea here is this section where she goes home. It's like 200 words between section breaks. Like it's like she does all the stuff at Lucy's house, and then it's like she comes home, is miserable for like a tiny bit, and then we just jump straight to the stuff with Matthew and Edith the next
Yeah.
day. So like you're right. There's a sort of sense of like it's now just a smaller part of the whole picture.
Yep, it's dangerous.
Yes.
But then we jump forward, and Verona's back, and they're with Edith and Matthew learning more tricks that they might be able to use. And they have a good, fun time with magic until Lucy confronts Verona, a bit worried about her.
Yeah, again, it's one of these things, like, this is becoming a bit of a pattern with Matthew and Edith, where, like, it's, like, fun family get-together stuff that they're doing with them. Like, they went on the camping trip. Now they're just having a barbecue in their backyard.
Yeah, it's like hanging out with their cool aunt and uncle.
Yeah, like, all three of them have gaps in their family, like, home situation. Lucy, in one way, the least, because she does have a good relationship with her mum. I think her issue at the moment is it's like just her mum. But it's like it does kind of feel like Matthew and Edith are trying to slot into this role of like, the fun aunt and uncle at the very least, of like, come hang out at our place and we'll do barbecues and all that stuff you're kind of missing. And maybe that's standing out to be a bit more in this Verona chapter. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's something like, it's just like the way these two keep taking them on fun adventures is starting to be like, I don't trust it.
Yeah, totally. Like, it would be great if they were humans. The fact that they're not is like, it just feels like a manipulation somehow.
Yeah, I mean, one of them used to be, so that's some.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of both used to be.
Yeah,
sort of. I don't know.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, obviously, and then the other thing to talk about here is Avery has made herself some like Pegasus boots.
Yes.
Which is just like, I mean, she's going to do very well in basketball now. She can.
Yeah, she's got fucking flubber boots. Yeah, I love the beat of these. Like, just the spirits are such a cool thing. Like, the characterization that air spirits are like playful and fun, but then that means they might just fuck you over in a key moment. Such a fun beat that I hope is never going to come up ever again.
Yeah, I'm sure it won't. Yeah, I love how this is used for this idea of like, don't rely on these in an important moment. Like, it's like, actually do the opposite. Like, just try to use these when it doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, so what you're telling me is to just develop a pattern of using these things when it's fine, and then expect me to not just accidentally,
I know,
like, instinctively use it in a like, high stakes situation.
Yeah.
Like, because that's something people, naturally do, is when they're in a high stakes situation, they're like, I don't want to use all the tools in my tool belt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure every high stakes situation resolves with people thinking, well, I'm glad we didn't have to use all the tools and we just solved this situation really easily and really simply. Yeah. So then there's this scene with Verona and Lucy where Lucy confronts Verona because she's worried about her, as we all are. And Verona kind of responds to Lucy's concerns and kind of just brushes them off. Like, Verona kind of makes some points here, but we're in her head. We can see that Verona never really stops to consider whether Lucy is saying something that has any merit to it. She kind of just brushes it off. And as I was reading this, the phrase that jumped to my mind immediately was, I learned it by watching you, Dad.
Yeah, absolutely. There's sort of a sense to me that like Verona has already made up her mind with the, yeeting her humanity thing that she talks about with Miss. So there's this sense of like, Lucy just doesn't get it, and she just doesn't want Lucy to worry. Like, that is the one very genuine thing I believe here. That's like, Verona does not want to hurt Lucy. So she's just sort of like, look, don't worry, I'm still going to be here or whatever. She doesn't commit to actually being human when she does so. But
yeah,
you're right. She does kind of disregard Lucy's concerns because she already has this plan in her head, and she just doesn't want to tell Lucy because, well, I'm assuming it's one of those situations where it's like she knows Lucy's not going to respond well, so she's going to keep it a secret. Which obviously is a great long-term solution to that issue.
Yep. I mean, this is the thing about Verona turning into another, right? Is like, the most human thing we know about Verona is her connection to Lucy. And so, presumably, if she's going to become another, that's the thing that's going to have to get dropped. I mean, like, if she's losing her humanity, that's the most human thing about her. So,
yeah, that'll be I mean, yeah, it's going to be a whole
it'll be
can of
pretty
worms.
fucked up. Anywho, so Verona heads home, hoping not to run into her dad, and she does, and we get this incredibly fucked up scene.
Yeah, this is really the culmination, the third of the three beat of the dad conversations. And oh boy, does it have that rule of three power.
Yeah, because basically we alternate, as Verona does, between kind of pitying her dad, and feeling disgust for him. She feels physical disgust for him, but I feel emotional disgust for him because there's a part where he basically just says to Verona, "Hey, remember your mother doesn't want you?" And
Yeah,
that's just like apparently a thing that he talks about all the time with Verona. Like, no wonder she has emotional attachment issues if her dad just keeps bringing up that her mother has abandoned her, like fucking drilling that fucking message home.
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, do you just want to leave me and go to the other person who doesn't even want you? Like,
Yeah, Jesus fuck.
it's and like, and then he brings up, it's like, she gave me an STD, which is just like, that's not what you talk to your 13-year-old daughter about, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, this scene really got to me. Yeah, I don't know. I was just, I like, probably more than anything else. I've had a relationship dynamic in my past, like, not to get too personal, that wasn't completely dissimilar to this, and just seeing these two being stuck in this rut of hating each other and not being able to help each other and communicate properly, just like, it really got to me on an emotional level. This is some of the strongest feelings I've ever gotten out of a Wildbow chapter, or just a chapter of a story ever.
it,
This hit
yeah.
me really hard, and
It,
these two they need to get out of each other's lives. Could we talk to Jazz about adopting Verona?
I mean, that's so crazy though. Like, I agree with you 100%, but at what point is it okay to have a thought of these two just need to get out of each other's lives between a 13-year-old child and her dad? Like, if that's the point that we're getting to, this is already so fucked up.
Yeah, I think it's past that point. Honestly,
Jesus.
I'm ready at the point where I'm like, yeah, we need to get her out of here. It sounds like her mum is actually genuinely a worse prospect. Like, her dad delivered
Yeah.
that information to us very poorly. But her mum actually just does
Yeah.
sound like a piece of shit of a completely different order to her dad.
A
So
completely, yeah, interesting you said that, Elliot. A completely different type of, almost like, wait, hold on. Elliot, what are you saying? Are
I'm
you
not saying
saying
anything, but I'm reading your notes right now, and yeah, you can have this.
Are you saying that Verona's actually got an other mother? That's not another. That's an other mother. All right.
I'm not saying that, but
All
you
right.
are.
Here we go. Here we go. Refinement of the theory. Refinement of the theory. It's coming in. Verona's mum is some kind of other that could pass for human, maybe even miss. We'll see. Put a pin in that. And left for
Jesus.
some kind of magical reasons. And it all tracks. Okay. So the STD was like some kind of like, I don't know, radiation or whatever that you might get from sleeping with another. Like, I'm sure that has some negative impacts on your health. And that's kind of the rational explanation for it. And already, that's why Verona is already kind of towing the line between human and other because she's half human and half other. And maybe I'm just trying to invent like a fantastical escapist reason that Verona's life isn't shit because humans are just shit. But I think instead this is a totally good theory, and I think you should accept
Sure. So then the next thing that happens is Verona.
it just gets worse, Elliot. Oh
Yeah.
my god, this is of all the chapters, this is the one that ends to me with just like a well, fuck. Yeah, like
Yeah.
every chapter has ended poorly, and this one was the worst of all of them.
Yes, because yeah, what happens is Verona calls Miss and it's like, hey, how can I lose humanity? I don't want it anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
and was it? I mean, was it just you, or did her mother? Sorry, I mean, Miss also have this
Jesus.
reaction of like totally just being like accepting this on face value. Like, yep,
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that was the case. Here, let me answer some questions for you. Not all of them, but enough that I'm not ruling this out. Like, she doesn't dissuade her. She kind of not. She doesn't encourage or dissuade her. She just kind of feeds enough breadcrumbs to keep it going.
If Miss isn't trying to give the impression that she's some sort of Machiavellian schemer, she's doing an absolutely atrocious job of it, because
Mm,
there was all the stuff last chapter, and then yeah, in this one it's sort of like, I don't want to be human anymore, and Miss is just like, yeah, figured, I can't tell you how to do it, but I won't stop you if you're gonna. And it's just like, okay, great. This is where we are now. Like, this is, yeah. And there's this final line as well, which I just love. I just want to also call out where, Verona sort of heads off to meet up with the others, and it just sort of says, "The hungry choir sang, and the singing reached over Kennet." Reached out over Kennet, and it's just like, that's
so ominous.
Yeah, that's a great line. Like, singing, reaching out is just, yeah. It's a great cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I can't wait for this next chapter. I guess while we're doing hot predictions, I reckon it's going to be a Gabriel interlude chapter.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
It's my hot prediction.
I've got one more wild prediction for you, Elliot.
Okay.
And this is the other predictions I've actually believed to some extent. This one is complete bullshit. But how about this?
That's setting, like, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get into the headspace where I'll comprehend this. If your other ones are the believable ones, like, okay.
Okay, so here's the thought. This one's just it was just kind of came to me throughout the episode. Okay, here's the thought. We talk about the idea that Miss could be, this is kind of an extension. This is like, if the theory that Miss is short for missing and she's one of the lost is like acceptable, this is like what's that theory from Game of Thrones about time traveling babies?
Yeah, the time traveling Tyrion one. Yeah, okay.
This is that version of that. Okay, so here's the thing. Miss potentially is somebody who did the ritual that she talked to Avery about and failed, right?
Sure.
Or, got
she's lost. Yeah. Capital L, yeah.
But what if it's not just, what if it's not just that Miss is another person who...
Oh god, no. Okay, wait, who do you think she is, Verona or Avery?
Actually, Avery, okay? Or possibly Verona, because Verona also could very feasibly turn into Miss, based on how this chapter ends. And I guess Lucy is like, I don't know, fucking John Styles or something. The point is, they're all time travelers, and the others are like future versions of the three Kenneteers, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah, so after 1.8, obviously, before we go, we need to talk about the inventories.
Yeah, totally.
Extra interlude, not interlude, bonus material.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. We never get to see the backpack of the characters, right? And this story is about like they've already been collecting like tools and trinkets to use, and so it's so good to just get this of like, here's what tricks they have up their sleeve for this coming encounter with the Hungry Choir, which is totally not going to turn into a conflict.
Oh yeah, no, they're just going to go and observe, and it'll be fine. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so in the We've Got Ward interview with Wildbow that happened recently, one of the things he mentioned is like how he really admires people who are able to excel in like multiple fields.
Oh yeah.
And like he's doing all the art for this himself, as far as I understand.
Yeah,
so like
I think so.
I mean,
it's pretty
getting there. Bonkers. Like this is a lot better than I could do already, and he's already got everyone beat in the writing category. So yeah,
this is interesting to me. I wonder, and if we ever get another chance to chat to Wildbow, this is a question I have to ask him. Is I wonder. I've heard a fair amount since the We've Got Ward interview with him about like his schedule and writing process and how he kind of spends his day. And I'm kind of curious from a creative perspective if doing the drawings for these bonus bits taps into a different kind of creative muscle than the writing does. If it's a way to like mix things up whilst spending a different creative resource that keeps him fresh and not kind of burning out as much. Because I'm really enjoying it. And if it's a way to kind of keep his energy up for these kinds of things, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, my guess would be that yes, like it would be. And like I think it's working for us as well. Like I'm loving it as a way to mix things up on our end as well. Like I think it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, totally.
Like this has been so much fun. Yeah. I mean, should we talk about the actual inventories?
Well, I mean, obviously the only important thing to talk about is that Lucy's brought 2 cans of soda because she wants to try out different flavors of gun.
Yeah, and again, one of the flavors is called Gushing Granny, which
Gushing
is just
Granny Smith apple or something, right?
Just,
which was
like that's the dankest reference I think there's ever been in a Wildbow work.
I like half know that it was like a poll for something, right?
For a Mountain Dew flavor. So Mountain Dew had like an online poll for like, who could pick the flavor, and like 4chan or one of those types of websites, got a hold of it, and Gushing Granny was like one of the winners or something.
I think I saw Wildbow say that the in-universe explanation for this is a a company saw that and saw that Mountain Dew didn't go with that because obviously they wouldn't, and was like, we could earn some points with the internet now, and just made their flavor called Gosh and Granny Smith Apple, which is the fucking craziest thing ever.
I'm not gonna lie. I think if a company did that in real life, I'd probably buy one for the joke. So
Yeah,
I see it.
I mean, I've bought like Vegemite and fucking Lamington flavored chips and shit.
Oh my god, I got those Lamington flavored chips. They're awful. I threw them out
after like weird?
3. They're okay. It's not okay.
There's like they've got the texture of a chip, but
they tasted too much like Lamington.
It's so weird, guys.
For
I know
people
don't know what Lamingtons are.
Yeah, they're like it's like a little sponge cake with with coconut like chocolate icing. Thing that's big in Australia, and it is absolutely not a crisp flavor.
Chips. I guess.
When we say chips, we mean crisps in American.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Probably. Just to go through some of the other highlights of the inventory that stood out for me. I'm very proud of Lucy for bringing a flashlight this time. Avery's also got a first aid kit and a multi-tool, which again, big thumbs up. I love how, they're not just bringing magically enchanted shit, but they're I've always loved this about the various Wildbow works. It's sure, I've got my magic ring and stuff, but also I've got to bring
a first aid kit, of course, because I'm gonna need that after I eat my own finger or whatever the fuck.
I loved how Verona has her big notebook, and then she's also got her little spell book, and she has fucking palm cards of mostly drawn diagrams ready to go on the fly. She's learned that lesson from when she went to save Lucy from John Styles.
Yeah,
it's very fun how much we get an insight into the prep they did off screen.
I mean they are learning, they are getting better at this. Just I don't know, it's not the kind of thing where you want them to get better at, I guess.
The other thing we should talk about here is because we learn a bit more about some advanced diagramming in 1.8 very briefly, and then we see the results of it here.
Yeah,
and it's it's a huge step up from what we've been doing.
Yeah, these diagrams are crazy.
Yeah, 1.4. And I probably spent an hour looking at all these diagrams and trying to puzzle out what they mean, and I'm sure I'm not the only person. And I'm also very sure that I haven't got all of them right, but we're going to talk about what we think they might be doing anyway, because I think that's what Wildbow was doing here, is he's setting us homework. This was a puzzle we were meant to unwrap, and that's what I've had so much fun doing.
All right, talk us through it.
I'll quickly talk us through the one we know, because I used this as the basis of some of the others, which was Avery's Pegasus boots.
Yeah.
Which have the Mercury symbol, and obviously Mercury is the innermost planet, revolves around the sun quickly, and Mercury was the god of running fast and speed and delivering mail and all that jazz.
Didn't he have winged boots?
Mm-hmm.
And Mercury is Hermes in Greek or Roman or whatever, and he gave Theseus his winged boots or something at some point. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, something like that. Anyway, so the point is, between all the wind runes and the Mercury symbol, they're speedy jump boots.
Yeah, flubbers. Yeah.
So the cool other thing we learned here is how some of the stabilizing, the extra circles, not only do they look cool, but they're like training wheels on a tricycle. They just stabilize things. I found that really cool. And this sort of leads into we also learned Avery's got her hockey stick, which I'm pretty sure is set up to be a super whacking stick. It's got earth to make it heavy. It's got diamonds pointing out in every triangles pointing out in every direction to aim it everywhere. It's got the Mars symbols, which obviously Mars was the god of violence and war.
Yep.
Interesting to see how that works with the Carmine Beast out of action. It's very fun. But then we start to get to the weird ones. I think Lucy's mask is simple. It just lets her see in the dark.
Yeah, that's what I would get. It's the light runes around her eyes, which to me is look, we've got headlights for eyes or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then then there's Verona's mask, which has these two interlocked diamonds or squares, depending on your what angle you have them at.
Yep.
I'm guessing, and we talked about this offline before recording, I think that's meant to symbolize connections, because and I was thinking if Lucy's mask is inscribed to boost her seeing in the dark, which is Verona's natural talent. One of the things Verona's sight is particularly weak with is the connections. She sees them as very thin strings, as opposed to Avery and even Lucy. So yeah, Avery and even Lucy, they they see like fairly thick cords, or like film rolls. So I could see Verona's maybe being designed to boost her connection seeing ability.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm kind of low confidence on that one. But then I mean, what else do we have?
We have the cloak.
Yes,
Verona's cloak.
Yeah, or is it her cloak or her hat? I thought it was her hat. Maybe,
I think it's her cloak, which is it seems to be basically talking about shadow and darkness. To do
you're
with
right, it's cloak. I assume she's turned it into an invisibility cloak.
Yeah,
basically.
right.
Or maybe not an invisibility cloak.
She's already prepping for Hogwarts.
What's that one from Lord of the Rings? The one that Frodo gets.
Is it the one ring that makes him invisible? What are you talking about?
No. Frodo has the like cape thing that he gets from Lothlorien, and it turns him into a rock in the third movie.
Oh, come on! I don't know that. I know he's got a sword that glows when fucking orcs are nearby.
Yeah, somebody will know what I'm talking about.
Ring.
Frodo has a Lothlorien cloak. I'm pretty sure it's Lothlorien, and it like
Get out of here,
it doesn't turn him invisible, but it turns him into a rock,
which is just as good, I think.
Well, it is because Mordor was rocky. Anyway, but like, so the other two Lucy ones are like really the diagrams that I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, Lucy's got some advanced diagramming going on.
Yeah, the hat is wild.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time talking about this before recording. Yeah. I think the way I'm interpreting it working is she's using the power of the words on the outside of the circle to funnel to sort of power blocking the things on the inside.
Yeah, like the outside things are the resource that blocks off the inside things from affecting her, or
something like that.
Hard to tell. And the fact that family is on both sides really threw us off a lot. Yeah. I think
the definitely the main goal of the diagram is to block off connections. What we got really caught up on, perhaps unnecessarily, is the relationship between things outside the circle and inside the circle.
The words just really, the fact that family is both on the outside and on the inside somewhere else really just threw me off all over the place.
But like the real other big one is Lucy's backpack.
Yeah, so let's talk about some. So it's got fire and air symbols that are kind of jetting out, passing out through this barrier, and then like turning. There's like symbols for them to turn.
But the fire one's blocked off, I think, as well.
Right, yes.
I think that's meant to be a block off and not like an underline. I'm assuming it's fire that's blocked off, not...
it looks like it's fire that's blocked off.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of discussions again about what this could be. Like, I thought a jetpack at first, and I saw other people suggest a jetpack, but the turning doesn't make sense to me in that regard, because like the last thing you want is your jetpack to not be like very linear and stable. Like twirling in a jetpack is a big no-no, I think.
Yeah, I know there's problems with it, but I still feel like the like explosive backpack is the vibe. Like it's a kind of last-ditch measure. She'll chuck her backpack at something and it'll just explode with like a whirl of fire and wind. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's enough fire in there for that though.
Well, it's also like it's a question of whether it's meant to be passive or like wouldn't it all be blocked off and you'd be trying to build pressure until you release it in that case? Or like,
maybe.
You know, there's a chance it's a diagram that needs like an extra stroke or something to finish it, like some of Verona's ones, and you know that's like lighting the fuse. I think the other idea we briefly had was it was like meant to be like a smoke machine. Just because obviously there were big bushfires in Australia, and we're both familiar with how smoky things around a fire can get thanks to the breeze. But I've actually settled on
a much more mundane explanation.
My very extreme interpretation that I've actually settled on is I think it's just like aircon or like heating. Like I think it's just heating up her backpack. I think the fire is being blocked off to spread into the middle, the little gap between the circles.
Yeah,
and then you've got air and some funnel. Like that's just meant to be a fan. I think it's just blowing hot air into her backpack.
Yep.
Because this is Canada. Like you got to stay warm. They're going on a night expedition.
Warm.
Yeah. Like I think we went way overboard thinking of fucking smoke machines and flamethrowers and stuff. I think it's just aircon.
I think this is explicitly going to be one that we find out in a chapter or two.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see which of these is correct, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's something else. We were looking at this for a long time, talking about it, and only at the very end, after I'd looked at this for maybe an hour or something, or like 45 minutes, did I realize that the backgrounds to each of their diagrams are related to their site. So
yeah, this was so I had not noticed that, and the second you said it, I was like, oh, that's fucking genius.
Yeah, it's just another example of how stylistic and great these drawings are, and it really speaks to Wildbow's artistic talent here. Because if you look at the diagrams, Lucy's diagrams are shrouded in what is presumably like bloodstains. Verona's kind of these puddles of blackness, I guess you would call them as. And then Avery's are the most explicit. They are just handprints, and I don't know how I didn't notice this, but it is just handprints on Avery's one.
That's the one where you see it and you're like, oh shit! Like I almost wonder if that's why Wildbow put it last, because then you probably meant to notice the handprints and then go, But that's just like, it's such a to sort of speak to Wildbow's like, artistic talent. That's just one of those extra little details that really elevates my appreciation for like the artwork here.
Yeah. And then we haven't even touched on the other part of this, which is
there's another part. Yeah,
fucking game facts guide to how to do good in Devouring Song.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you reckon this website is part of the Hungry Choir, or is it fan made?
I thought it was at first, but it can't be. And also, I saw Wildbow confirm that it isn't.
As in it isn't.
It's not like it wasn't made by the Hungry Choir.
Okay.
It's explicitly, and then I think he just said that in a kind of typical Wildbow one sentence, not quite answering all the questions you have, but giving you a little breadcrumb way, which then therefore implies to me that this is like people have put this together to try and min-max the Devouring Song, I guess.
Yeah, which like of course makes sense. Like that's sort of how you're meant to beat these rituals. Yeah, I mean, I like. Obviously, but it's a shame that we can't click all the other links. That was the first thing I tried to do, is try and scroll the scroll wheel and click stuff, because that would be so awesome to have done. But it's absolutely an unreasonable expectation, but God, it would have been cool. Some of the things in like the table of contents are so fun. Like in strategy, there's like injuries and aftercare. There's all sorts of
there's waifs as well, which are like really thin, hungry things.
Yeah, I googled that. I can't remember what it was, but it was like concerning. There's the prize, which is the link I probably wish I could.
I know that was the one I tried to click on first. There's hand signals, which is weird, especially if people are losing fingers. That's problematic.
Yeah. And then obviously there's like the page that we're actually on, or that Gabriel 007 is on, is like the prep that you should do the night before, which is like there's a have no knife rule, which seems specifically targeted at Lucy.
Yep.
There's all this stuff about how you have to eat beforehand, which is concerning. Taking an antiemetic, which of course is anti-vomiting. Type stuff like this. Just there's so much going on where I was just like, I can't wait to see the clusterfuck of a ritual go off.
It's genuinely just going to be wild, right? Like, because here's the line that got me was, NK1 inhibitors and serotonin receptor blockers cause dry mouth, which will get you killed. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? They're clearly eating and singing at the same time, right? Or like right after each other or something.
Or
which sounds disgusting. And I don't know why anyone would want to do that. Chew your food and eat and swallow before you sing, right? Jeez. Already I'm disgusted and we haven't even seen it yet.
But I think that's everything we had to say on on 1.7, 1.8 and Inventories.
Great one. Great chapters. Maybe my favorite so far. I mean, favorite, maybe not the right word because of all the Verona's dad stuff, but just great, compelling chapters.
We were talking about this on the Discord earlier. Actually, there's that difference between liking something and like enjoying it. Like Toad Swallow. I like Toad Swallow in the story. If Toad Swallow was real, I'd run screaming. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
of course.
There's a difference between liking something and liking
and
something.
Approving of it. But that's the end of our episode. I almost called it a chapter. Our episode for this week. But don't fear, there's more to do. Always content coming during the week. The more to do this time is we're going to do a discussion question. So leave your answers to our discussion question in our discussion thread, which we'll link in the show notes down below. The question is, which aspects of our protagonists are you the most worried about? And yes, there's a lot. So pick one that you're the most worried about, and let's talk about why you're so worried about it.
I think we've had 3 chapters. We've had 3 chapters in a row, one from each Kenneteers' perspective. And at the end of each one, I've been like, I am the most worried about this Kenneteer currently.
Yeah, it just keeps escalating, doesn't it?
Well, I don't even think it does. It's just like there's a recency bias there, probably.
Oh, yeah, true.
So, like, yeah, I'll be interested to hear what people say, because I think there's plenty to be worried about for each Kenneteer.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what people are actually latching onto.
Yeah, so leave your answers to that in the discussion thread, or just leave us your thoughts on the show in general, or the story, or whatever. Whatever, man. It's all chill here. That'll be linked down in the show notes.
Yes, and if you want to know what else you can listen to as you finish up this episode, head on over to doofmedia.com. That's where all the deets on all the other Doof shows are. That's coming up, if you're listening to this like right after it came out, about 10 hours after this episode releases, we will be doing the second episode of our game club.
Yeah.
So Ruben and I will be meeting up to talk about Transistor. Yeah, and do all that jazz. So if you're listening well after 10 hours after this episode came out, the game club will still be on YouTube, so you can come check it out. In the future, you'll be able to watch a recording.
Yep. So go do that. If you want more from us, you can check out our Twitter, which is @MediaMD Podcast, where you could have seen Elliot's live packed spoiler filled, but still good, I think. Still worth a listen, a watch, a read, whatever. Anyway, go to @MediaMD Podcast and you can see all that stuff. That was a bit of a mess, but you got the picture.
Yes, and if you like this show, if you like the weird tangents we keep going on off of, and if you like Galaxy Brain predictions, come on over to patreon.com/doofmedia.
Yeah,
we're entirely backed by our patrons, and you get tons of perks as a part of that as well. One such perk is you get to participate in voting what the game club covers. So we're obviously covering Transistor in a few hours. And the patrons have just finished voting on what we will be covering next, which we will reveal in the game club. So, if you want your say in what we cover after that, come and join our Patreon.
Yeah, I think it is my favorite part of doing live, now that we're doing a live Wildbow story, is the fact that there are just bonkers predictions to be made, and they're always so much fun. So hopefully everyone's enjoying that. It's not just me. It happens in the Discord, which you get access to if you're a patron.
Yeah, well, and this is definitely, I think, a story that is meant to be making us do that, like totally. More so than some of the others. I think it's a mystery, right? So you're meant to be trying to crack the code before everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah, and
actually, and one other thing is, if you donate $10 or more to Wildbow's Patreon, he'll tell you who's the murderer.
No, who's going to do that? No one would. Like, I wouldn't donate. That's a terrible sell.
Or okay.
If you don't donate $10, he will tell you.
If you no,
he'll spoil
unless he reaches the next milestone on his Patreon, he's never going to reveal who's the murderer of the Carmine Beast, and we'll just never have an answer to the mysteries. So if you want to find out eventually who's behind it all, the only way to guarantee that we're going to find out is to make sure Wildbow keeps writing stories. And the only way for that to happen is to support him on Patreon. So go to patreon.com/Wildbow and give him some money.
I don't know if we should be making promises about what Wildbow is and isn't going to do on his Patreon, but
look, I think it's true to say this. Okay, this is a true fact.
Okay, this is practitioner speak time.
100% true. If Wildbow wasn't earning any money for writing, he wouldn't be able to write stuff, right?
Okay.
Right? So therefore, if people don't continue to support him, if Wildbow's Patreon doesn't continue to get support, it's possible that this story might not get finished because Wildbow has to go and do other work or something, So therefore, the only way to guarantee that we're going to find out the end of this mystery is to encourage people to support Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow.
Yeah, just go give him some money if you're enjoying the story, because I am.
Yeah, let's simplify it. Forget all this, cut all that, whatever. Just give him some money. Why not?
Yeah. And so with all that said, we'll be back next week to talk about, I guess, more Lost for Words.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible we could hit the end of the arc soon. Although we'll have to.
I feel like we have to encounter
first.
the Hungry Choir, right? I mean, unless we do get it as a Gabe interlude and that's how we experience what's going on, which I think is possible.
That'd have to be like, yeah. There's a lot to cover in that chapter potentially. I don't know.
But these are hefty chapters. I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway,
see you next time, folks.